Hey everyone, FPL Pricey here. Today I've got 5 players that I believe are being overlooked with 1 week to go before the game week 1 deadline hits us. If you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. But in the meantime, let's crack on with the show. The first player I've got for you all today is a 6.5 million midfielder, new to the league, and that is Musa Diabi. He's Aston Villa's new record signing, and I've shared my extended thoughts on him over on Who Got the Assist, which is a fantastic video and podcast that you should all check out. The link is in the description below if you wanted to do so. In the meantime, Musa Diabi does come to the league with a lot of promise, and even though we haven't seen him in the Premier League before, I've extrapolated some of the data from the Bundesliga where he performed really well last season. As you can see, his XG per 90 of 0.34 is very high for a midfielder, and if you go over to FBref, you can see he's directly compared to the likes of Salah, Vinicius Jr., and Martinelli, which are 3 great players to be compared to over on that website. As you can see, really good underlying data, and he looks like he might be playing almost a second striker role for Villa, right in behind Ollie Watkins. And at 6.5 million, and the fact he gets that extra point for a goal, I think he is a really good pick for those opening few weeks. He does go up against the likes of Mitoma and Mbeumo from the off directly at that same price point, but I think considering his underlying data from the Bundesliga over several seasons now, he's a player we should be really excited with. And if you wanted to take a punt on his low ownership, he is up against Everton, Burnley and Crystal Palace in the opening 5 fixtures, so there's a good chance he gets off to a good start, and that ownership and price will rise really quickly. If you didn't fancy the likes of Mitoma or Mbeumo at that price point, I really highly recommend having a look at Diaby, because he seems to be overlooked by a lot of the community at the moment, and I've got a good feeling that he'll get off to a lightning start. Now, one player who has extremely low ownership, and probably rightfully so for his previous campaign, is Richarlison. At 2.5% owned, that is a major differential, and if Harry Kane does stay at the club, I don't think he's going to be an option for us. However, with Harry Kane's move pending to Bayern Munich, if he was to leave before game week 1, Richarlison looks like he might be the nailed centre forward of choice at Spurs. His underlying data suggests that last season he was quite unlucky to only bag 1 goal. Obviously, a 0.28 XG per 90 isn't terrible, and he was also not playing as a centre forward for Spurs, meaning that I'd expect that underlying data to be slightly improved if he was to take Harry Kane's place. Secondly, obviously he'd get much better minutes if Harry Kane were to leave. So at 7 million for someone who is classified as a midfielder that I'd expect to be playing out of position, I think he could be great value if Harry Kane were to leave the club. The fact that he had a poor 22-23 season will put off a lot of managers, but it's important to note that Richarlison does have a decent standing in FPL over the previous seasons at Everton, scoring over 10 goals in 3 of the previous 4 seasons before he joined Spurs. Spurs also have a really good run of fixtures after game week 2, going up against Bournemouth, Burnley and Sheffield United back to back from game week 3 to game week 5, meaning there could be some real threat of attacking returns for Richarlison if he was to nail down that starting centre forward spot. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised Jack Grealish hasn't been spoken about at least a little bit more in pre-season drafts so far. He is still under 10% owned, and I think that that might be slightly overlooked in comparison to some other players out there. For example, Phil Foden, who's been touted regularly, including by myself as well, because he's got great upside if he were to become nailed. Now, there's all the chance in the world that Phil Foden does nail down a more regular starting spot this year, and again, because he's 7.5 million himself, that in itself would probably rule out Jack Grealish as an asset. However, KDB is nearly back to full fitness now. Alvarez can also play in some of the roles that Phil Foden can, and Jack Grealish is kind of unique in the fact that only him can really play that left wing role the way that Pep likes him to play it. Obviously, he struggled a little bit in his first season at City, but last season he really nailed down that spot, and the way that he was playing and carrying the ball forward for City made him an almost lock into that City team at times last season. I think that he is probably a more guaranteed way into the Man City attack, and if you're looking to try and attack City's really strong opening 7 or 8 fixtures, he's probably the safest bet for a regular attacking starter outside of Haaland. Obviously, City are also the best attack in the league, so if you want a slice of that pie beyond Erling Haaland, whose ownership is going to be incredibly high, Jack Grealish could be a really good way into that City attack without having to risk too much about whether or not your player is going to start week on week. His underlying data isn't half bad either, with an XG per 90 of 0.2, which is a goal 1 in every 5 games on average, plus an XA per 90 of 0.29 is actually really strong, combining to a goal or an assist expected every other game overall. 5 goals and 10 assists last season is probably slightly underperforming on his expected data, so I'd actually expect those numbers to grow a little bit this season. Again, the longer he seems to be in that City team, the more comfortable he gets, and the better partnership he seems to have with Erling Haaland, who hopefully will see a lot more assisting too in the 23-24 season. A super quick section now on someone I believe to be one of the better 12th man picks out there at the moment, and that is Rico Henry. When you look at their opening 7 fixtures, you can see why I'm favouring Henry as a 12th man pick at the moment, with fixtures against Fulham, Nottingham Forest, Everton, Bournemouth and Palace in their opening 7, not necessarily in that order, I can't quite remember the exact order, but they play those 5 teams in their opening 7 fixtures, and I think there's a decent chance of clean sheets in any of those matches. After that, fixtures do tighten up a little bit, but by that point, a lot of us will be looking at wildcarding or manoeuvring over to Botman anyway. So I think Rico Henry, who is nailed into that Brentford side and also has a half-decent attacking threat and might tick over with the odd goal or assist over the season, might not be a bad shout for that 12th man pick who can come in case rotation strikes, or if you've got a player with a slightly worse fixture that week and you want to provide that backup without having to make some sort of transfer. The last player today is one that I'm desperately trying to find a way to squeeze into my current draft at the moment, and that is Ben Chilwell. At 10.2% ownership, he's a little bit higher owned than he was the last time I talked about him on this channel, and that goes to show the promise that he's shown in pre-season and the fact that Poch seems to be using him in quite an attacking manner. Chelsea's fixtures to open up the campaign are absolutely fantastic. They're at the top of most fixture tickers out there at the moment. But the one asterisk is Liverpool in game week 1. Now, a lot of people are put off the Chelsea defence because of that Liverpool fixture, but I think if you can just forget about the idea of getting a clean sheet in that game and have a look at the potential attacking threat that Ben Chilwell could have down that left wing that Liverpool seem to be very easily exposed on at the moment, Chilwell has a great opportunity to get a goal or an assist in game week 1. And then beyond that, he's always got that opportunity for attacking upside as well, but you can also add in the clean sheet threat too. Now, in the past, he has had fitness concerns whilst at Chelsea, and he was ruled out for a long period of time last season. But I think a lot of managers are wrongly categorising him alongside Reece James as injury prone. And with Ben Chilwell specifically, it seems to be one specific injury that kept him out for a long period of time, and then he was continuously struggling with it throughout the season. He seems to have put that behind him now, and he should be fairly nailed as that left wing back for Chelsea with not too much competition at the moment, and Cucurella potentially even leaving the club soon. Like I said, Chelsea's fixtures are absolutely fantastic, and Ben Chilwell really ticks all of the boxes you look for when picking a defender in FPL. I think at 5.5 he's significantly underpriced, and if he stays fit, which we've got no reason to expect him not to, I think he'll be a fantastic option not only for the first few fixtures but throughout the entire 23-24 campaign. That wraps up today's video, and do let me know in the comments below if any of those players are currently on your watch list or even in your team. Also, let me know any players that I didn't have time to mention today in the comments below that you think others should be considering more carefully as we head towards game week 1 just a week away. If you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel, it would be greatly appreciated. But in the meantime, I hope you have a great rest of your pre-season, and I hope to see you again soon on this channel over the coming days.